It was a morning like any other at the palace, or at least that's what the staff and family believed. The grand halls of Buckingham echoed with the familiar rhythms of royal life, footsteps of aides, the quiet hum of chandeliers, and the gentle clinking of silver as breakfast was laid out for the family. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Yet, somewhere between the ceremonial precision and the outward calm, an unsettling ripple passed through the palace corridors, one that would turn a routine day into a maelstrom of fear and panic. News that would shock not only the royal household but also the nation and the world was about to unfold. A revelation that would leave the palace in tears, as whispers of worry and terror spread from room to room. Prince William, the future king, the symbol of continuity and stability for the monarchy, had been admitted to hospital, and the circumstances surrounding his sudden hospitalization were as baffling as they were terrifying. Those who had always counted on his composed, regal presence now faced a harrowing uncertainty, an unknown threat that had shaken the foundations of the palace to its core. The palace staff were the first to sense something was amiss. The usual rhythm of activity faltered, and murmurs of concern quietly spread among the servants and aides. A few minor incidents had gone unnoticed in the morning, small anomalies. A misdirected message, a security alert that flickered and then vanished, a call unanswered, that in hindsight now painted a chilling picture. It was as if the palace itself had sensed a disturbance, a warning of the chaos that was to come. By mid-morning, the rumors could no longer be contained. Urgent messages had flown to the senior staff, and the atmosphere shifted from one of serene order to tense anticipation. The initial report was brief, almost clinical. Prince William had been taken to hospital. No further details were given, and yet, the brevity of the statement only intensified the anxiety. The lack of explanation created a vacuum in which fear could grow unchecked. Outside the palace, the world began to sense that something extraordinary was happening. Social media accounts lit up with speculation, journalists scrambled for details, and citizens who had once felt distant from the inner workings of the monarchy now found themselves gripped by a collective anxiety. Unlike many public figures whose private health crises remain contained, a royal health emergency carries with it layers of symbolic weight. Prince William is not merely a public figure. He represents the continuity of a centuries-old institution, a figurehead for a nation accustomed to stability, tradition, and ceremony. His sudden hospitalization was therefore more than a medical event. It was a disruption in the perception of royal invincibility, a shockwave that reverberated through the public consciousness. Within the palace walls, the family's response was immediate and emotionally charged. Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, known for her composure and grace under pressure, was reported to be deeply shaken. Accounts from palace insiders describe scenes of frantic coordination, calls to medical professionals, and private discussions among senior aides about the potential implications. The children, young George, Charlotte, and Louis, were kept shielded from the full scale of the crisis, though the tension in the household was palpable even to their young eyes. Those tasked with caring for them struggled to maintain normalcy in the face of uncertainty, a delicate balance of honesty and reassurance that weighed heavily on every adult present. In the corridors, staff whispered in hushed tones about what had triggered such an extreme measure, and the questions hung in the air like shadows. Was this an acute medical issue? Had William experienced a sudden collapse? Or were the insane occurrences reported earlier somehow connected, hinting at a deeper, more alarming threat within the palace itself? The details that gradually emerged painted a picture that was as perplexing as it was alarming. Initial reports suggested that William had experienced a sudden episode, one that prompted immediate medical attention. Some sources described it as an acute physical ailment, while others hinted at a severe psychological strain, possibly exacerbated by recent palace pressures and personal challenges. The convergence of physical vulnerability and emotional turmoil, coupled with the high stakes of royal duties, created a scenario fraught with tension. Medical teams worked swiftly, coordinating with palace security and senior aides to ensure that every possible precaution was taken. In the midst of this, speculation grew unchecked. Experts and commentators began analyzing every detail, every prior public appearance, and every minor health incident from the past year, seeking clues to explain the sudden hospitalization. For the public and the media, this was more than news. It was a puzzle demanding answers, a story unfolding in real time with the potential for dramatic revelations at every turn. Yet amid the chaos and speculation, there was an undeniable human element that resonated deeply. Beyond the headlines, the tweets, and the television coverage, there was a man, the heir to the throne, facing a personal crisis. The pressures of royal life, often invisible to the public eye, can be immense. The weight of centuries of expectation, the scrutiny of millions, and the constant negotiation between private desires and public duty. In William's case, this pressure had reached a tipping point. Sources suggest that recent events, both personal and public, may have contributed to the intensity of the situation, amplifying stress and anxiety to a level that required urgent medical intervention. For those within the palace, this was a moment of vulnerability rarely seen in a family accustomed to maintaining an image of stoic resilience. Staff described a sense of quiet panic, tempered by professionalism and loyalty, as they sought to navigate a situation that was at once medical, emotional, and symbolic. As the hours progressed, the palace moved into an unprecedented state of alert. Security protocols were heightened, staff rotations adjusted, and communications carefully controlled to manage both the flow of information and the emotional impact on the family. The hospital where William was admitted became a focal point of intense scrutiny, with medical staff operating under extreme pressure and media attention looming just beyond the gates. The stakes were immeasurable, not only in terms of William's health but in the perception of stability within the royal household and, by extension, the monarchy itself. Every detail mattered, every decision carried weight, and every rumor risked spiraling into uncontrolled speculation. In this environment, the line between factual reporting and conjecture blurred, and the palace became a stage for a drama that was both intensely personal and profoundly public. The tension was not confined to immediate palace circles. International observers, royal commentators, and political figures closely monitored developments, understanding that a crisis involving the heir to the throne has ramifications far beyond the walls of Buckingham. Questions arose about succession, the impact on upcoming royal engagements, and the delicate balance of tradition and modernity that defines the monarchy. Commentators debated, analysts speculated, and ordinary citizens watched anxiously, their concern amplified by the historical significance of such an event. Every snippet of information, every cryptic statement from palace officials, was dissected and interpreted, fueling a narrative that alternated between hope and dread. Even as speculation swirled, the palace sought to maintain composure. Officials released limited statements, carefully crafted to reassure the public while preserving privacy. These statements emphasized that William was receiving the best possible care and that his condition was being closely monitored. Yet, the restraint in communication only heightened curiosity and concern, creating an atmosphere in which every minor detail could be interpreted as a clue to the truth. Social media amplified this effect exponentially, as citizens shared, debated, and reacted to each emerging detail, turning the story into a global conversation about vulnerability, responsibility, and the human side of royalty. At the heart of this unfolding drama lies the intersection of personal crisis and public expectation. Prince William's hospitalization is not merely a private medical emergency. It is a moment that underscores the immense pressures faced by those in positions of extraordinary responsibility. The palace's reaction, the family's response, and the public's engagement reveal the complex dynamics of modern monarchy, a world in which the line between private life and public duty is perpetually blurred. This situation offers a rare glimpse into the human fragility behind the ceremonial pageantry, highlighting both the resilience required to navigate royal life and the profound impact that unforeseen events can have on even the most seemingly stable institutions. And so, the stage is set. The palace, normally a bastion of order and tradition, is now a place of tension, concern, and anticipation. William, the future king, lies in the hospital, while the family, staff, and public wait for clarity. Questions loom. What triggered this hospitalization? Were the strange occurrences within the palace mere coincidence, or were they part of a more troubling pattern? How will this crisis affect the family, the monarchy, and the nation at large? The answers are as elusive as they are compelling, and as we explore the events that led to this extraordinary moment, each revelation will bring us closer to understanding the full scope of the crisis and the human story at its heart. The moment news reached the royal family that Prince William had been admitted to the hospital, the palace shifted into a state of profound urgency. Though the family is no stranger to scrutiny and public attention, this event struck at the very core of their personal lives, blending the private anguish of a loved one with the immense responsibilities of their public roles. Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, immediately became the anchor in a storm of anxiety, navigating her own fear while tending to their children, coordinating with palace staff, and ensuring that William received prompt medical attention. Those close to her later described a scene of controlled panic, grace under pressure, tinged with the raw emotion that only the immediacy of a family crisis can produce. Reports from palace insiders described the initial moments as both chaotic and surreal. Catherine is said to have been summoned to a private meeting with senior aides, where they provided her with fragmented updates on William's condition. Each detail, while incomplete, carried immense weight, and the emotional toll was compounded by the public dimension of the crisis. Catherine, already under the gaze of millions, had to remain composed while simultaneously processing the shock of her husband's sudden hospitalization. Staff observed her navigating this delicate balance with remarkable composure, though her anxiety was palpable, visible in fleeting moments of tension, furrowed brows, and clipped instructions to aides who were likewise scrambling to maintain order. The children, George, Charlotte, and Louis, were shielded from the full extent of the situation, yet their intuition and sensitivity allowed them to sense that something was deeply wrong. Staff recount moments of quiet observation, noting that the children's normally playful routines were replaced with subdued interactions, small gestures of concern, and questions that staff had to answer delicately. Catherine reportedly moved with calculated calm, attending to the children's emotional needs while ensuring that updates about William's condition were communicated accurately but without inducing fear. The human side of the royal family became evident here. Even in the midst of ceremonial life and public scrutiny, they were, above all, a family experiencing an acute crisis. Senior members of the palace, including William's aides and private secretaries, worked tirelessly to coordinate information and responses. Sources indicate that the palace's inner circle convened immediately to strategize communication protocols, manage security, and oversee the medical response. The coordination extended beyond medical attention, encompassing security measures, logistics for hospital transport, and contingency planning in case William's condition deteriorated. These moments, while executed with professional precision, were laden with tension, each decision carrying the weight of potential consequences, both personal and institutional. One of the most compelling aspects of the family's reaction was the interplay between emotion and duty. Catherine, for instance, reportedly balanced a personal sense of fear with her responsibility to maintain public appearances, at least to the extent possible. Aides describe her moving between private meetings, phone calls with medical personnel, and brief check-ins with the children, all while projecting an air of calm to prevent panic from spreading among staff or family members. The duality of these responsibilities, protecting her family emotionally while managing the operational demands of the crisis, illustrates the intense pressure placed on those closest to William, highlighting the human cost behind the royal veneer. Other family members, including William's siblings and senior cousins, were reportedly briefed as the situation unfolded. Some arrived at the palace, while others coordinated remotely, their concern manifesting in both logistical support and emotional engagement. Insider accounts describe tense phone calls, strategic discussions about public messaging, and the careful management of internal communications. Each family member grappled with the emotional weight of the crisis, recognizing both the vulnerability of William as an individual and the symbolic significance of his role as the future king. Their reactions ranged from quiet anxiety to overt distress, creating a tapestry of human emotion that contrasted sharply with the controlled public image typically associated with the royal household. The role of palace staff in this period cannot be overstated. Servants, aides, security personnel, and medical staff worked in concert to manage the unfolding crisis, their actions combining technical expertise with empathy and emotional awareness. Accounts from insiders describe staff moving through corridors with urgency yet discretion, attending to details both large and small, from preparing transport to monitoring hospital updates. The staff's ability to maintain operational continuity while navigating heightened tension reflects both the complexity of the palace's internal systems and the human capacity to function under extreme pressure. Their loyalty and diligence ensured that William received immediate care, while simultaneously supporting the emotional and logistical needs of the family. Public reaction, though filtered by palace communications, also influenced the family's response. Even with strict information control, Catherine and senior aides were acutely aware of the intense scrutiny from media and the public. Every statement, every gesture, and every appearance carried potential interpretation and consequence. This layer of external pressure added to the internal emotional load, creating a situation in which the family had to navigate private concern and public expectation simultaneously. Observers note that this duality is a recurring feature of royal crises, but few events in recent history have carried the immediacy and intensity of William's hospitalization. The children's reactions, though carefully managed, reveal a particularly poignant aspect of the crisis. George, the eldest, reportedly asked subtle but probing questions, sensing that something significant had occurred, while Charlotte displayed moments of quiet anxiety, observing her parents' unusual behavior. Louis, youngest of the trio, was described as restless and fidgety, reflecting the emotional ripple effect that a parent's sudden health crisis can have on even very young children. Staff and aides employed delicate strategies to maintain a sense of security, using routine, reassurance, and careful explanations to shield the children from unnecessary fear, while acknowledging their intuition and emotional needs. These measures underscore the human element often overlooked in the public's focus on institutional implications. As the day progressed, Catherine remained at the center of coordination, demonstrating both resilience and vulnerability. Insider reports describe moments in which she took brief pauses to process updates, visibly affected by worry, before returning to her role as anchor for her children and a source of steady leadership for the palace staff. This delicate balancing act highlights a central tension of royal life, the need to embody calm and composure while confronting deeply personal crises. It also illustrates the emotional stakes involved, not only in terms of William's health but in the broader impact on family dynamics, staff morale, and public perception. Meanwhile, the palace implemented internal communication strategies designed to manage both information flow and emotional impact. Senior aides coordinated closely with medical teams to receive real-time updates on William's condition while ensuring that the family remained informed. Simultaneously, communications officers began preparing statements, calibrating language to provide reassurance without revealing sensitive medical details. The intricate coordination reflects the dual priorities of care and perception management, a constant feature of royal operations during high-stakes events. Every decision, every update carried layered significance, affecting both the immediate family and the institution as a whole. The gravity of the moment was amplified by the palace's awareness of precedent. Historical instances of royal health crises, though rare, offer insight into the delicate balance between private vulnerability and public expectation. William's hospitalization invoked echoes of past emergencies, reminding both staff and family that even the most stoic and prepared figures are susceptible to unforeseen events. This awareness shaped every action taken that day, from medical coordination to security protocols, emphasizing the interconnection between personal well-being and institutional stability. Observers note that the palace's response, though methodical, was infused with genuine emotional concern, reflecting both professionalism and human empathy. As evening approached, the family's reaction remained intense but disciplined. William's condition, though serious, had stabilized under medical supervision, allowing Catherine and other senior family members to focus on longer-term logistics and emotional support. Staff continued to monitor developments, ensuring both the safety of the family and the privacy of the medical process. The emotional arc of the day, from initial shock and panic to cautious relief, illustrates the complexity of managing a crisis in a public institution where personal, familial, and national interests intersect. For the royal family, the events of that day reinforced both the fragility and resilience inherent in their roles, highlighting the extraordinary pressures faced by those who live lives under constant scrutiny. The palace, though outwardly calm, was deeply marked by the events of the day. Every corridor, every room, and every interaction carried the weight of heightened tension, reminders of the thin line between routine and crisis. For the family, the hospitalization of William was not just a medical concern but an emotional crucible, testing their composure, coordination, and ability to navigate the intense demands of royal life. Staff and aides, in turn, were called upon to exercise judgment, loyalty, and care in equal measure, ensuring that both the family and the institution were supported through a day that would be remembered as a turning point in modern royal history. By nightfall, the palace had managed to restore a degree of order, yet the emotional resonance of the day remained. The family's reactions, marked by a combination of fear, vigilance, and resilience, underscored the human dimension of royalty, an aspect often obscured by ceremonial display and media portrayal. William's hospitalization, precipitated in part by unusual occurrences earlier in the day, illuminated the vulnerabilities inherent in even the most structured and controlled environments. For staff, family, and observers alike, the day was a vivid reminder that life, even in the most storied of institutions, can pivot unexpectedly, demanding both immediate action and profound emotional resilience. The moment Prince William arrived at the hospital, the gravity of the situation became unmistakable. Hospital staff, briefed in advance by palace officials, had prepared for the arrival of a high-profile patient whose condition was serious enough to warrant immediate and intensive care. A specialized medical team, trained in handling both complex medical emergencies and the demands of royal protocol, was waiting to assess him. The hospital, already aware of the media scrutiny and public concern, had activated a meticulous plan. Controlled access to the facility, secure transport routes, and continuous communication with palace aides. Every precaution was taken to ensure William's privacy, safety, and access to immediate treatment. Yet the tension in the air was palpable. As the medical team wheeled William through the corridors, aides and security personnel flanked him, maintaining a shield of both discretion and authority. Witnesses later described the scene as surreal, an unusual combination of urgency, precision, and controlled chaos. In rooms that typically handled routine patient care, staff adapted quickly, transforming standard facilities into a temporary hub for high-stakes medical intervention. Monitors were immediately activated, vitals assessed, and diagnostic procedures initiated, all while keeping the prince calm and reassured. His composure, as reported by attending physicians, remained intact in moments, but subtle signs of strain, tightened jaw, shallow breaths, furrowed brow, betrayed the seriousness of his condition. The first priority was to stabilize William and understand the precise nature of his condition. Early assessments suggested that the incident might have been triggered by an acute episode, potentially exacerbated by stress and external factors from the morning's unusual occurrences in the palace. Physicians conducted a series of rapid evaluations: blood tests, imaging, cardiovascular monitoring, and neurological assessments. Each test was carefully coordinated to provide accurate and immediate information without causing unnecessary stress. The meticulous approach reflected the dual challenge faced by medical professionals: providing top-tier care while managing the unique psychological and logistical demands of treating a member of the royal family. Inside the hospital, the atmosphere was both tense and focused. Doctors, nurses, and support staff worked in synchrony, each aware that their actions were under the scrutiny of palace aides and security personnel. Reports indicate that a senior consultant was in continuous communication with Catherine, updating her on William's condition and ensuring that family concerns were addressed. Catherine herself was reportedly calm but visibly concerned, moving between briefings, private calls, and quiet moments of reflection. Her presence underscored the human element of the crisis, the emotional weight carried by those closest to William amid the swirl of medical, security, and media pressures. While medical teams worked to stabilize William, palace aides coordinated logistics and security with remarkable precision. The hospital had to accommodate both the high-profile patient and the imperative for privacy, creating a dual environment where patient care and public perception were inseparably linked. Staff maintained controlled access to rooms, monitored incoming personnel, and ensured that communication channels were secure. Any lapse could have had significant consequences, both medically and reputationally. Observers later noted the delicate balancing act, describing a scenario where professionalism, discretion, and urgency intersected in a highly charged environment. The timeline of William's hospitalization became crucial, both for medical assessment and for palace coordination. Within the first hour, vitals were stabilized, and an initial diagnosis provided indications for further testing. Medical staff employed a combination of real-time observation and advanced diagnostic tools to pinpoint the cause of the acute episode. Reports suggest that his heart rate and blood pressure were carefully monitored, with specialized equipment ensuring that even minor fluctuations were detected immediately. Throughout this period, palace aides were kept informed, maintaining a connection between the medical team and the family, and ensuring that updates were accurate, timely, and appropriately conveyed to those with clearance to know. Beyond the immediate medical interventions, attention turned to the psychological and emotional impact of the incident. Physicians and palace staff recognized that even a brief crisis could have lasting emotional consequences, particularly in high-profile individuals accustomed to constant public scrutiny. William was reportedly reassured continuously, with medical staff and aides speaking in calm, measured tones to reduce anxiety. Experts later noted that the psychological aspect of recovery can be as critical as the physiological, especially in scenarios involving stress-induced or acute episodes. The care provided was thus holistic, balancing the physical stabilization with the need to mitigate fear, maintain composure, and preserve the dignity of the patient. As the day progressed, updates trickled to palace officials in measured intervals. Communication had to be precise, accurate, and carefully managed to prevent misinformation and undue alarm. Palace aides relayed updates to Catherine, other family members, and select senior staff, each piece of information analyzed for both its medical relevance and its impact on family morale. The duality of urgency and discretion defined the day. The need for immediate, high-level medical response existed alongside the equally critical need to protect privacy, maintain composure, and manage the narrative within the palace and beyond. Meanwhile, media speculation intensified, creating an additional layer of pressure. Though official statements were limited, journalists and social media users speculated on the cause of William's hospitalization, ranging from acute illness to stress-related complications, and even to potential palace intrigue. The family and hospital faced the challenge of providing assurance without revealing sensitive medical details. Every detail released had to be carefully calibrated, balancing transparency with discretion, a task complicated by the speed at which information and speculation traveled in the modern media landscape. For the family, the public dimension was inseparable from the personal one, amplifying both concern and stress. Reports from hospital insiders indicate that by mid-afternoon, William's condition had stabilized enough to allow for more comprehensive testing. Physicians conducted imaging scans, neurological assessments, and cardiovascular evaluations to rule out acute threats and identify underlying contributors to the episode. Each step was executed with precision, balancing speed with thoroughness. Simultaneously, palace aides ensured that family members were kept informed, providing reassurance, context, and continuity amid a day marked by uncertainty. The coordination between medical teams and palace staff reflected an unprecedented level of integration, blending operational expertise with emotional sensitivity. By evening, initial results suggested that while William's condition was serious, it was stable. Physicians continued to monitor him closely, adjusting treatments as necessary and preparing for extended observation. Catherine remained a steady presence, offering emotional support while maintaining communication with palace staff, security personnel, and medical teams. The family's ability to navigate this intense emotional terrain while coordinating high-level responses underscored the resilience and adaptability required in moments of crisis. The medical emergency also revealed the importance of palace preparedness and prior contingency planning. Protocols for handling high-profile patients, coordinating hospital transport, and managing internal communications were executed with precision, demonstrating the intersection of tradition, protocol, and modern medical practice. The palace's ability to adapt to an unexpected crisis, balancing the demands of medical urgency, family concern, and public scrutiny, illustrates the complexity of operating at the intersection of private life and public duty. It also highlights the unique pressures faced by those who serve a role that is simultaneously personal, symbolic, and political. Even as William stabilized, questions remained. What triggered the sudden episode? Were there contributing factors beyond the immediate medical observations? How would this event impact both his personal health and his capacity to perform royal duties in the coming weeks? These unanswered questions created a continuing tension, both for the family and the palace staff, underscoring the ongoing nature of the crisis. The episode marked not only a medical emergency, but also a moment of profound vulnerability for a figure whose life is defined by expectation, duty, and public visibility. By nightfall, the initial emergency had been managed, but the reverberations of the day's events were far from over. William remained under intensive monitoring, and the palace adjusted schedules, communications, and security in response to the ongoing situation. Catherine, staff, and family members continued to coordinate, balancing concern, care, and operational responsibilities. The day's events, marked by urgency, precision, and emotional intensity, revealed the multifaceted challenges of responding to a crisis involving a royal figure. Medical, emotional, security, and public perception all intertwined in a high-stakes environment. The hospitalization of Prince William serves as a striking reminder of the human dimension behind the royal facade. Amid the protocols, traditions, and public duties, the vulnerability of a single individual can ripple outward, affecting family, staff, and the wider institution. The coordination of medical care, security, and emotional support exemplifies the delicate balance required in such moments, highlighting the extraordinary pressures faced by those entrusted with both personal well-being and the continuity of a centuries-old institution. News of Prince William's hospitalization spread like wildfire, igniting a storm of speculation, rumors, and conjecture that consumed both traditional media and social media platforms. Within minutes of the palace's brief statements, journalists across the globe began dissecting every available detail. Headlines appeared simultaneously in newspapers, television broadcasts, and online news outlets. Prince William in critical condition, royal family in shock, and unprecedented hospitalization sparks global concern. The ambiguity surrounding the circumstances provided fertile ground for speculation, and the lack of detailed information only intensified curiosity and concern. Social media, in particular, became a dynamic forum for the spread of theories and speculation. Twitter feeds exploded with hashtags such as #PrinceWilliamHospitalized, #PalaceCrisis, and #RoyalEmergency, each post fueling the frenzy. Users dissected photographs from recent appearances, analyzed subtle cues in public statements, and shared unverified reports, creating a rapid and chaotic flow of information. Memes, commentary, and video clips proliferated, blending fact with conjecture in ways that blurred the line between verified reporting and public imagination. For the public, the hospitalization became not only a news event, but a shared moment of anxiety and curiosity, amplified by the instantaneous and relentless nature of social media communication. Traditional media outlets also contributed to the intensity of speculation. Reporters and commentators debated possible causes of the hospitalization, drawing on historical precedent, expert opinion, and their own interpretations of limited palace statements. Some posited acute medical conditions, citing previous minor health episodes reported over the past year. Others suggested stress-related causes, emphasizing the pressure inherent in William's role as the future king. Still, more sensationalist outlets hinted at palace intrigue or external threats, framing the hospitalization within narratives of conspiracy and mystery. In the absence of concrete information, these stories gained traction, each competing for attention in a media landscape defined by speed, immediacy, and dramatic framing. Palace aides, acutely aware of the impact of media speculation, worked to manage the flow of information carefully. Statements were strategically released to reassure the public while protecting the family's privacy. The language was carefully calibrated, emphasizing William's stabilization, the ongoing medical supervision, and the professionalism of attending staff. Yet, even as these statements were released, they were scrutinized, analyzed, and often twisted by commentators seeking a more sensational narrative. The palace faced a delicate balancing act, attempting to provide reassurance without revealing sensitive details or encouraging further speculation. Expert commentary added another layer to the public conversation. Medical professionals, royal analysts, and security experts were called upon to interpret events and provide insight into the possible causes and implications of William's hospitalization. Cardiologists discussed stress-induced complications, neurologists examined potential acute episodes, and royal experts contextualized the situation within historical precedent. Each expert opinion, though professional in tone, became fodder for media headlines and social media discussion, further amplifying the sense of urgency and uncertainty. The combination of authoritative commentary and public speculation created a feedback loop in which the story gained momentum at an extraordinary rate. Amid this maelstrom, the palace remained hyper-aware of the potential impact on public perception. The hospitalization of the heir apparent carried not only personal significance but symbolic weight for the monarchy as an institution. Analysts noted that public confidence in the royal family could be influenced by perceptions of stability, competence, and resilience. Every detail, how the family responded, how staff managed the crisis, and how information was communicated, was scrutinized through this lens. This awareness influenced both the messaging strategy and the operational decisions within the palace, highlighting the intertwined nature of personal health, institutional integrity, and public perception. Rumors proliferated at an unprecedented rate. One narrative suggested that the hospitalization was linked to palace security breaches, drawing on the earlier anomalies reported within the palace. Another posited that extreme stress from recent public engagements and personal pressures had precipitated a severe health episode. Some even speculated about external influences, weaving complex conspiracy theories that implicated third parties or alleged palace rivals. While many of these theories were baseless, their rapid circulation demonstrated the human tendency to fill gaps in knowledge with imaginative explanations, particularly when the subject involves a figure as globally significant as Prince William. Within the palace, staff monitored these developments with concern. Insider accounts indicate that aides and communications officers worked tirelessly to correct misinformation, maintain a factual record, and ensure that family members were not unduly influenced by the flood of rumors. Strategic decisions were made to release carefully worded statements, provide selective updates to trusted journalists, and maintain tight control over information flow. These measures were designed to protect both the family's privacy and the integrity of the monarchy, while also mitigating the emotional impact of misinformation on William, Catherine, and their children. Public reactions varied widely. Royal supporters expressed concern, sending messages of hope, prayers, and encouragement. At the same time, critics seized on the ambiguity to question aspects of royal management, health oversight, and institutional protocols. News outlets compiled polls, interviews, and social media trends to gauge public sentiment, highlighting the global nature of the audience's engagement. This combination of widespread concern, critical scrutiny, and relentless attention intensified the emotional atmosphere surrounding the hospitalization, creating a sense of collective suspense and empathy that extended far beyond the walls of the palace. The intensity of speculation also underscored the challenges faced by modern institutions in an era of instant communication. In the past, news of royal health crises could be managed with controlled statements and measured updates. Today, however, social media platforms, 24-hour news cycles, and global connectivity amplify every fragment of information, accurate or not. Analysts later noted that the rapid spread of rumors about William's condition exemplifies the challenges of maintaining privacy and controlling narrative in a world where public interest is instantaneous, relentless, and often speculative. Amidst the global attention, some insiders reported that even minor gestures were scrutinized intensely. For example, brief photographs of palace staff entering or exiting the hospital were analyzed for clues about William's condition. Observers noted the prince's posture, facial expressions, and apparent demeanor in public appearances leading up to the hospitalization, interpreting subtle signs as indicators of severity. Every movement, every statement, and every appearance was transformed into data points for interpretation, creating an environment in which speculation thrived, regardless of its accuracy. As evening fell, palace communications focused on reassurance, emphasizing that William was receiving high-quality care and that his condition was stable under continuous observation. Statements highlighted the professionalism of the medical team, the dedication of palace staff, and the support of family members. Yet, despite these reassurances, speculation continued to circulate, fueled by the global appetite for updates, expert commentary, and narrative intrigue. Analysts noted that this dynamic, where reassurance exists, senior palace security officials immediately convened an emergency meeting. The discussion focused on potential internal and external risks, evaluating whether William's sudden health episode could have been influenced or exacerbated by security breaches. While no evidence of direct interference was confirmed, the mere possibility prompted the implementation of contingency plans. These plans included reinforced patrols around the palace perimeter, verification of all staff credentials, restricted access to key areas, and a temporary lockdown of non-essential wings. Each action was executed with military-like precision, reflecting both the seriousness of the situation and the high stakes involved. Internally, tension among staff grew. Palace aides, assistants, and medical personnel were acutely aware that the hospitalization of the heir apparent was not an isolated event, but rather a moment that could ripple through every aspect of palace operations. Reports suggest that the normally harmonious flow of daily duties fractured into a highly reactive mode, where even routine tasks required heightened attention. Staff described a sense of urgency that permeated the air, a shared understanding that every small decision could have outsized consequences, both for William's immediate safety and for the broader functioning of the palace. Meanwhile, Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, was navigating her own heightened stress. Insider accounts indicate that she remained in constant communication with both medical staff and palace security, seeking updates on William's condition while ensuring the protection of her children and staff. Her presence served as a stabilizing force, but the emotional toll was unmistakable. The juxtaposition of personal concern and the necessity to maintain composure added a complex layer to the family's response. Catherine's ability to balance these pressures underscored her role as both caregiver and operational anchor in a crisis that demanded both emotional intelligence and tactical oversight. The palace's technological infrastructure became a focal point of scrutiny. Security teams reviewed surveillance feeds, access logs, and alarm triggers to ensure that no anomaly was overlooked. Reports indicate that multiple layers of monitoring were deployed, from human observation to automated systems, each designed to detect potential threats in real time. The hospital's coordination with palace security added another dimension, ensuring that William's transfer and monitoring occurred under continuous protection. Every detail was scrutinized, emphasizing that in moments of crisis, even the most routine technical operations acquire critical importance. Tensions were further amplified by the presence of media and public attention. The palace is accustomed to scrutiny, but the suddenness of William's hospitalization intensified pressure on security teams. Every external interaction, every unauthorized approach, and every unusual movement had to be evaluated through the lens of both safety and perception. Insider accounts describe security officers on high alert, meticulously tracking all personnel, vehicles, and communications. The objective was clear: maintain the safety of William and the family while managing the optics of the situation for a global audience keenly attuned to every development. Unforeseen complications added to the stress. Minor discrepancies in access protocols and communication lapses, though quickly rectified, created moments of heightened anxiety. Staff were required to adapt instantaneously, responding to alerts while balancing multiple operational priorities. In some cases, this involved rapidly redeploying personnel to secure locations or temporarily restricting movement within certain wings of the palace. Each decision, executed under the pressure of time and consequence, demonstrated the intricate choreography required to manage a crisis in one of the world's most visible residences. The psychological weight of these security measures was significant. Staff and family members alike experienced a heightened sense of vigilance, a hyper-awareness of the potential for further incidents. Even small noises, fleeting shadows, or minor technical anomalies were met with scrutiny, reflecting the cumulative tension of the day. Experts in crisis management later noted that such prolonged periods of heightened alert can increase stress, fatigue, and decision-making pressure, factors that further complicate both operational efficiency and emotional stability within the household. Amid these measures, palace aides remained in constant coordination with medical staff. The synchronization of security protocols and healthcare management required seamless communication and rapid adaptability. For example, routes for emergency transport to the hospital were constantly monitored and adjusted in response to real-time developments. Staff ensured that William's transfer was smooth, secure, and shielded from public interference, while simultaneously maintaining controlled communication with family members. This interplay between security and healthcare underscored the complexity of managing a royal crisis, highlighting the necessity of precision, planning, and flexibility in the face of uncertainty. Adding to the tension were internal palace rumors and speculation, which, though contained, influenced staff behavior and decision-making. Reports of unexplained movements, anomalies in communication, and minor incidents were discussed in hushed tones, sometimes generating heightened vigilance that bordered on paranoia. While no definitive threat was confirmed, the perception of risk itself created a pressure cooker environment, where every action was deliberate, every movement cautious, and every decision weighed against potential consequences. This psychological intensity permeated the palace, affecting both operations and emotional well-being. Catherine's role during this period remained central. She coordinated closely with security officers, offering insights, clarifying priorities, and ensuring that the family's needs were met amid operational demands. Her presence bridged the personal and professional dimensions of the crisis, allowing staff to execute their duties with confidence while maintaining the emotional integrity of the household. Observers later noted that her ability to balance empathy, leadership, and tactical awareness was crucial in managing the heightened tension that enveloped the palace. By late afternoon, the palace had stabilized operationally, but the emotional resonance of the day's events remained acute. Staff, aides, and family members had navigated a series of unprecedented challenges: unusual disturbances, heightened security alerts, and the hospitalization of the future king, while maintaining the protocols and traditions that define royal life. The day's events highlighted the delicate equilibrium between routine and crisis, structure and vulnerability, public duty and private concern. It became clear that the palace's response to William's hospitalization would serve as a defining example of institutional resilience and the human capacity to manage intense pressure in real time. Experts later reflected on the broader implications of these security and operational challenges. In high-profile institutions, particularly those with global visibility. Even minor anomalies can have amplified significance, affecting both individual well-being and organizational integrity. The convergence of real threats, perceived anomalies, and the emotional weight of the situation creates an environment where careful planning, rapid response, and emotional resilience are equally critical. For William, the meticulous orchestration of security and medical protocols ensured that his condition remained stable, while simultaneously reinforcing the palace's capacity to manage crises without compromising the safety of staff, family, or public perception. The day concluded with a temporary easing of immediate security concerns, though the heightened vigilance remained in effect. William's condition stabilized under continuous medical monitoring, palace staff resumed essential duties with enhanced awareness, and security protocols were maintained at an elevated level to prevent any further disruption. The tension, however, lingered as a reminder of the fragility inherent even in the most controlled environments. The unusual events preceding the hospitalization, combined with the rapid escalation of concern and the extraordinary response measures, underscored the complexity of managing both personal and institutional vulnerability in one of the world's most scrutinized households. By nightfall, the palace had managed to create a balance between operational control and emotional support, demonstrating a remarkable ability to navigate a situation that combined medical urgency, security threats, and global public attention. The events of the day revealed not only the extraordinary pressures faced by the royal family, but also the resilience and coordination required of those entrusted with their safety. The hospitalization of Prince William, set against a backdrop of unusual disturbances and heightened palace tension, became a defining moment, one that would reverberate through the corridors of power, the lives of family members, and the perception of the monarchy on a global scale. As the events surrounding Prince William's hospitalization unfolded, Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, emerged as both a pillar of strength and a central figure in managing the emotional and operational aspects of the crisis. From the moment she learned of the emergency, she assumed a dual role, comforting her children and family while simultaneously coordinating with palace aides, medical personnel, and security staff. Sources inside the palace describe her as calm yet intensely focused, a combination that allowed her to navigate one of the most stressful situations of her public and private life with remarkable poise. In the immediate aftermath of the hospitalization, Catherine's first priority was to ensure the well-being of her children. George, Charlotte, and Louis, though shielded from the full details of the crisis, were sensitive to the tension in the household. Staff report that Catherine provided reassurance through routine and personal attention, speaking to the children in a calm, measured tone that conveyed safety without concealing the gravity of the situation. She engaged them in activities designed to maintain a sense of normalcy, while quietly monitoring their emotional responses. For Catherine, this balance between parenting and crisis management was essential. The emotional stability of her children was inseparable from her ability to remain composed for the sake of the entire family. Beyond the immediate family, Catherine was deeply involved in coordinating with palace staff and medical personnel. Reports indicate that she maintained continuous communication with William's medical team, seeking updates, asking questions, and ensuring that his care was being managed at the highest standard. Her interactions were described as focused and detailed, reflecting not only concern for her husband's well-being, but also an understanding of the operational complexities involved in treating a high-profile patient. These exchanges required delicacy, discretion, and emotional resilience, highlighting Catherine's capacity to combine empathy with strategic oversight under extreme pressure. As the day progressed, Catherine also became a key figure in managing public communication. Palace officials recognized the necessity of providing updates to the public while maintaining the family's privacy, a task that required careful calibration of language and timing. Catherine worked closely with senior aides to review statements, approve messaging, and ensure that the tone was consistent with the gravity of the situation. Each phrase, each sentence, was scrutinized for its potential impact on both public perception and the family's emotional state. Her involvement in these communications illustrates a sophisticated understanding of the dual imperatives of reassurance and discretion, balancing the public's need for information with the family's right to privacy. Inside the palace, Catherine's presence served as a stabilizing influence on staff. Her composure and clear direction helped alleviate anxiety among aides, security personnel, and medical teams. Staff reported that her ability to communicate calmly yet authoritatively created a sense of focus, allowing teams to perform their duties under the intense pressures of a high-profile crisis. The human dimension of her leadership was particularly notable. She acknowledged the stress of staff, offered guidance, and fostered an environment in which both operational efficiency and emotional support could coexist. This dual emphasis on professionalism and empathy underscored her unique capacity to manage complex, high-stakes situations. Catherine's emotional resilience was further tested by the relentless attention of the media and public. Even with carefully crafted statements and controlled updates, speculation and analysis proliferated across social media platforms and news outlets. Every movement, gesture, and expression was examined for clues about William's condition, adding layers of scrutiny to an already stressful situation. Catherine reportedly navigated this attention with discretion, ensuring that her public appearances and statements projected calm and assurance, while privately processing her own concern and fear. Observers note that maintaining this balance between public composure and private vulnerability is one of the most demanding aspects of royal life, particularly in moments of crisis. Her public statements, though brief and measured, carried emotional resonance. Catherine emphasized her husband's stabilization, the professionalism of the medical team, and the ongoing coordination with palace staff. In doing so, she reassured both the public and family members that steps were being taken to address the situation comprehensively. At the same time, her words were carefully crafted to avoid disclosing sensitive medical details, preserving William's privacy while providing sufficient information to prevent misinformation. The careful balance of empathy, authority, and strategic messaging demonstrated her awareness of the broader implications of every statement she made. In addition to her immediate responsibilities, Catherine also coordinated with other senior members of the royal family. Updates were shared with relatives, ensuring that all necessary parties were informed while maintaining a hierarchy of communication. Catherine's role as both mediator and coordinator highlights the complex network of relationships and responsibilities within the royal household, particularly during a medical crisis of this magnitude. Insider reports describe her managing these interactions with sensitivity, ensuring that family members received reassurance without creating additional anxiety or confusion. Throughout the day, Catherine also had to contend with her own emotional responses. While outwardly composed, those close to her report that moments of private worry were inevitable. Brief pauses to process updates, moments of quiet reflection, and expressions of concern, though largely shielded from public view, highlighted the personal toll of the crisis. Yet, these moments of vulnerability were seamlessly integrated into her broader role, informing her empathy, decision-making, and leadership without compromising operational efficiency or the family's sense of stability. The interplay between emotional support and operational oversight extended to the palace staff and aides, who relied on Catherine's guidance to navigate the day's complex demands. Her leadership ensured that security measures, medical protocols, and internal communications were executed with precision, while also fostering an environment in which staff felt both empowered and supported. This balance was critical in managing a situation where the stakes were both intensely personal and symbolically significant, reflecting the unique pressures of life within the royal family. Catherine's role also encompassed navigating the broader public response. She was acutely aware that the hospitalization of William, the future king, would dominate headlines, social media discourse, and international commentary. Insider accounts indicate that she provided guidance on messaging, helped coordinate press releases, and participated in strategy discussions with senior aides. The goal was to project reassurance, maintain credibility, and prevent panic, all while protecting the family's privacy. This dual responsibility, managing both the emotional needs of the family and the expectations of the public, illustrates the multifaceted nature of royal crisis management. The Duchess's approach combined strategic foresight with emotional intelligence. She anticipated potential challenges, coordinated responses in real time, and ensured that both immediate and long-term considerations were addressed. Her leadership emphasized not only the safety and care of William, but also the emotional and operational well-being of those around her. Staff reported that her calm yet decisive presence allowed them to focus on their roles, reducing confusion, stress, and uncertainty in a situation where every moment carried significance. As night fell, Catherine continued to serve as the emotional and operational anchor for the family. Updates from the hospital indicated stabilization, but her vigilance remained unwavering. She monitored communications, coordinated with aides, and ensured that the children's emotional needs were met. Her capacity to balance personal concern with public responsibility became particularly evident, underscoring the demanding nature of her role. Observers noted that Catherine's leadership during this crisis not only reinforced the stability of the household but also provided a model of resilience, composure, and emotional intelligence under extreme pressure. By the end of the day, the public statements and visible actions of Catherine had successfully conveyed reassurance while preserving the privacy and dignity of the family. Her careful management of both internal and external communications demonstrated an acute awareness of the stakes involved. The health and safety of William, the emotional stability of the family, and the broader perception of the monarchy. Through her actions, she reinforced a narrative of resilience, competence, and compassion, embodying the qualities necessary to navigate a crisis of unprecedented intensity and visibility. The day's events highlighted the extraordinary demands placed upon those closest to William during a medical emergency. Catherine's response, marked by a combination of emotional depth, strategic thinking, and steadfast presence, played a central role in ensuring that the crisis was managed effectively, both within the family and in the public eye. Her actions exemplified the delicate balance required of royalty in moments of intense personal and institutional pressure, demonstrating the capacity to navigate fear, uncertainty, and scrutiny with poise and determination. The sudden hospitalization of Prince William was not only a deeply personal event for the royal family but also a moment that resonates within the long and complex history of British monarchy. While the public tends to perceive royalty as figures of almost mythic resilience, historical precedent demonstrates that even the most powerful members of the monarchy have faced moments of vulnerability that reverberate far beyond their personal lives. By examining these past crises,